Hi, this is Kim, and I'm here again today with another support video. The topic that I'm going to be covering in this video is the point of missing out. Missing out on being an active participant in your life. And this involves missing out on the people in your world, on events that take place, even obligations, tasks, responsibilities, and most importantly is missing out on yourself and sharing yourself and your self-expression. Okay, so where I'm going to start with this, this is something that I realized that was happening to me. And when I realized this, it was a deeply painful experience. And those are words I use a lot throughout the course of the information that I bring forward. Because living with a mental health disorder is a deeply painful experience. And ironically, a lot of the painful, hurtful, emotional experiences are caused by the disorder themselves. They're caused by the disorder themselves, and then they serve to fuel the disorder, to make it worse. So we're looking at a bit of a self-perpetuating cycle here. So one of the things that started happening to me when I began to stop participating in the behavioral aspect of my mental health disorder, which is one that falls under the umbrella of OCD, is that I started to have to face my suppressions. So everything that I had been avoiding, denying, not looking at, burying, suppressing came to the surface for me to face. And this is going to be something that each one of us is going to have to walk and face and work through. Now I've been there, so I can be like a guide, which is something that I wish I had had when I was going through it. Because these experiences are very personal, they're very unique to the individual, and they're very difficult to communicate and share with other people. Which is what places me in somewhat of a unique position, because I myself have been diagnosed with and have been working with a disorder that falls under the umbrella of OCD. Okay, so what do I mean by missing out on life? Missing out on being an active participant, missing out on the people in your world, and missing out on yourself. Now, the very plain and obvious fact is that when you have a type of mental disorder, there is a certain investment of time that takes place into that disorder. And with OCD, skin picking, trichotillomania, BRFBs, you know that there can be a significant amount of time invested into them. And what I realized myself, when I was isolating myself and shutting myself in rooms for hours on end, was that the world around me was continuing on. Reality kept moving. And what was I doing but extracting myself from that reality? I was removing myself. I was creating almost like a bubble world where only I existed. Now, what it felt like at the time was that was all I was capable of. Reality was too much for me to handle and too much to cope with. And I needed to visit this bubble to get my feet back on the ground, to soothe and support myself, and so that I could feel normal. It's interesting because OCD is a soothing experience because of what we experience in the world, in reality, in our lives, our daily lives. You can get yourself to a point where even doing the dishes becomes a very stressful and pressureful, anxiety-ridden task, where afterwards it's like you feel like you just can't cope. So you go throughout your day accumulating these pressures, and it gets to a point where you just feel like you need to remove yourself. My realization that deeply impacted me was the realization that, I have a place in this world. And I hadn't looked at it that way before. And looking at it that way changed a lot for me, because I felt that when I removed myself, I was not missed, I was not wanted, I was not needed, and for me personally, I felt like I didn't have any other option but to remove myself. But when I looked at it in a different way, where I saw myself as having a place in this world, having a role, being an active participant in my reality, I started to feel a little warmth within myself. It was like a self-worth bubbling up. Now, in my writings that's going to complement this vlog, I mentioned the fact that I got myself to a point where I, as I am, wasn't enough for me. It's like I had diminished myself so much that my existence in my own eyes was not worth fighting for. When I shifted my focus and perspective a little bit to look at the bigger picture of life and reality moving along and me having a place in it, I started to realize that I actually do have a worth simply because I exist and I'm here. And there are people in my world that function next to me and with me, and I am a part of it. And what I noticed was that when I was disappearing into the bathroom or my bedroom for hours on end, that I was actually missing moments where I should have been there. And it's like, if you want to look at the bigger picture and you want to bring in a bit of existentialism, where you see life and reality as being something that we all consist of, that we all have an equal part in. And you want to look at a more kind of divine intelligence, I'm not going into religion or spirituality here. I'm just going into the fact that we exist, we're here, we're part of life, and there is a spot for us. And how are we going to live that role, that spot? How are we going to fill that place? Because if we remove ourselves from our role and our place, then something else will fill it. And that something else was not supposed to be the filling of that spot. That was supposed to be you. That was supposed to be me. You are best placed to stand in your position, in your role. And there are things that we can say will play out in life better with you there. And when you're not there, you create this missed opportunity, not only for yourself, but for everybody in your life and for life itself. For me, this was very motivating because all of a sudden I started to see that, yes, nobody can fill my place. And if I stand up and engage in life and engage in my reality, then I'm actually fulfilling a bigger role in the bigger picture. How this ended up playing out for me was that with obsessive compulsive disorder, you have the compulsions and you live them out, and that's your investment of time. And what I would do is I would shorten that investment of time by participating in the disorder and holding on to this awareness that I am missing out. And it's deeply saddening because it's like you're missing out on all the action, but not just the action, but reality, life. And you're existing in something that is not reality, that is not life, that is not living. I mean, isn't that death? Isn't that like dying? Aren't we basically killing ourselves by not living? I mean, you have all these zombie movies like The Walking Dead, and that's how I saw myself. I was the Walking Dead because I would participate in my disorder, in the compulsions, spend hours there. And when I would emerge, it's not like the soothing and the relief that I experienced at the time followed me out of the room and stayed with me. I would be almost vacant and distant. And I felt like I was watching life play out from a window in some tall building. And I wasn't actually there. I wanted to cross-reference this, so I actually asked people in my reality, what is your experience of me when I'm like that? And they confirmed it. They said, yes, you seem distant and far away, and like you're kind of missing the details And it even affected them to the point where they felt a bit bad to have fun and express themselves, because there's this vacant person sitting there and you're not quite sure how to approach them, how to reach in and help them come out. And there's even awkwardness. So it does have an impact on your reality. And it's like you think that you're only missing out on life when you're actively participating in the compulsion, but actually it's the before and the after as well. So as I was participating in the compulsions and holding this awareness, it was like that little extra push and that motivation that I needed to shorten my sessions. And then when I looked at it further, I started taking even more steps. I started more actively participating and engaging in my reality by doing little things like looking people in the eye, because if I would have some kind of blemishes or marks on myself that I had caused, I wouldn't want to look at people. I would just want to avoid eye contact. And there, it's like you're also not really there and present. And another thing that I did was when I was closing myself into a room and participating in the disorder, I would, in maintaining that awareness, walk myself to a point where I knew that when I went through that door and stepped back into reality, that I would not bring with me the possession that I would go into in the bathroom. I would step through that door fully present, fully aware. So whatever you have to do to make that possible, whether it's apply makeup or just put on some bright lipstick and give yourself a big smile in the mirror, even if you feel like an absolute wreck inside yourself, you're just kind of snapping your mind out of it for a moment. It is a decision and a choice to step out of this possession that we go into. And when you start putting little supports in place, whether it's this awareness, whether it's taking the step of eye contact and feeling more engaged and connected in your reality, feeling more human, or putting on makeup or lipstick. These are not solutions in and of themselves, but they are supports to help you step back into reality so that you can stop creating the emotional reactions that come from removing yourself from reality. So you're kind of coming at it from all angles. So before I started stopping my sessions, I would make little changes to transition, because I know that every single person who suffers from one of these disorders knows that you can't just stop. You need to have supports in place. You need to have foundational structures for you to step onto step by step. So you place the foundation and you take a step. You place another foundation, you take another step. So this is one bridge, one stone that you place on the ground that you can take a step, is re-entering your reality, is facing the pain of knowing what it's like to not be a participant in reality, and to know that you're having an effect on the people around you, and that it's not nice. It's not nice for you, it's not nice for them. So I found it very difficult and awkward to speak with people when I was in this state of mind. But with practice, I was able to identify the moments where I would withdraw, and that was avoiding eye contact, giving very short, brief answers to questions, things like that. So I started making sure that I would look up and look people in the eye. I started taking a question and really taking a moment to give a full answer, looking into myself and seeing where I was at. If someone were to ask me, for example, how are you? Instead of just saying, I'm fine, I'm good, thanks. You actually take the question into your chest and ask yourself, how am I? Because you'll find, if you let the question kind of sink in to you, that you have a lot to say about how you're doing. We face a lot on a daily basis. So it is a practice to bring it in and to refine your answers so that you actually share yourself. You share a part of yourself. That is intimacy with another person, because you're taking a part of you and you're bringing it out and expressing it and sharing it with them. And in that, you start creating connection with people in your world. But none of this can happen if you're not there. And none of this can happen if you remove yourself for long periods of time and then you emerge in a weird kind of spaced out frame of mind where, you know, you've spent so much time with the disorder that you are now in a huge rush and a time crunch and a time squeeze in your reality. And now you're going to go into anxiety and stress and pressure, and that's going to resonate to the people in your world. And you know, they're going to react to that, and then you're going to react to them, and you see how many outflows come from this disorder. And that's what we're going to be looking at in my content on my website and on this YouTube channel, is how to stop creating those consequences and outflows so that when and as you take your steps towards healing, it's easier. It's more a fluid transition. You're kind of tidying up a lot of loose ends and stopping a lot of loose ends instead of going straight for the meat of it, the stopping. We just kind of carefully go around and prune and create and strengthen yourself so that you are able to take the next step. Okay, so I'm going to place the link in the description to the blog that I wrote to accompany this video, where I go into more detail about how to use this information and awareness to strengthen and support yourself, to shorten your sessions. Because I'm not saying stop, not just yet. I know that's what we want to do, but I tried it, and when you just stop and you don't face the suppressions, they will overwhelm and plunge you back into another cycle, deeper and harder and more painful than the last. We have to both work through the disorder and place the foundations for change equally at the same time. We can't do just one or just the other. That leads to suppression. And this is the method I'm using. You know, it's not the easiest thing to see when you're in it, but over time, and when you keep watching my videos and reading my articles, you're going to see that there is a structure that is a 50-50 of working with the disorder and creating a new way. Because if you just take away the disorder, then it's not dealing with the parts of self that were causing the disorder in the first place. We've got to get to the roots. That's what we're going to do. And then we have to fill the space that's left where the disorder once was. We do that at the same time. Okay, I'm going to leave it at here. So thank you very much. And just stay tuned for my next video. Okay, thanks guys. Bye.